Hi everyone, in this video I'll show you how to get started with Restate. We're going to build and run a simple greeter service that uses durable execution, meaning your code automatically recovers from failures without you writing any retry logic. By the end of this quick start, you'll have Restate running locally and understand how it keeps your code resilient out of the box. Let's dive in. If you haven't done so already, navigate to docs.restate.dev and then to the quick start to have easy access to all the commands. The first thing we will do is install Restate server and the CLI. Restate is a self-contained single binary, so that requires no external dependencies, which makes it very easy to start up. I'm on Mac, so I will execute the brew command. Restate is now installed. Now I will run the Restate server by running restate-server. You can now see that it's running, and if we now head to localhost 9070, then we can see here the Restate UI. We will come back to this later. Let's go back to the quick start and let's get our service template up and running. In order to do this, copy the command you find here in the quick start and run it in another terminal. This also navigates to the folder and installs all the dependencies. Now let's start our service with npm run dev. You can see that it's now listening on port 9080, but Restate doesn't know about it yet. So the next thing we need to do is register the service with Restate. In order to do that, let's go to the UI and click here on Register Deployment. Enter the service URL, which is localhost 9080. And when we click Next, we see that Restate discovered our greeter service behind this endpoint. When we click Confirm, we see the greeter pop up here in the Restate UI. We can now send requests to it by clicking here on the name of the handler. This will send us to the playground, which is integrated in the Restate UI, and which lets us send requests. For example, if I here enter as name Peter and press Send API Request, then a little bit later I will have the response, you said hi to Peter. So our setup is now working. Now let's have a look at what we actually executed. The request we just executed went through Restate's durable execution. Let me show you what that actually means. Open up the code in an IDE. Once the project has opened up, navigate to source app.ts to see the implementation of our service. Here we see we define a restate.service service called greeter. The implementation has a greet handler, which has here a function that gets executed for every request that comes in. The function takes a Restate context. The Restate context is basically our connection to Restate, which lets us persist the output of intermediate steps in our execution in Restate. So what does this mean? Here we have a set of durably executed steps. Each step has its result persisted in Restate and replayed after a failure. The first step generates a unique identifier as a greeting ID. The second step then sends a notification and uses that greeting ID as a deduplicator. Then it sleeps 1 second and finally we send a reminder. So that's the implementation of our service. If this crashes halfway through, for example, halfway through the sleep, then Restate will recover it to the exact point where it failed, so halfway through the sleep. Let's send a request to the service that shows us how those retries take place. Go back to our terminal and the UI. And here, instead of Peter, we now use the name Alice. If Alice is used as a name, then the service will crash artificially a few times for us to see how retries take place. So if we now click Send API Requests, then we can now navigate in the UI to the invocation step and have a look at what our service actually did. Here in the right hand side in our service logs, we see that the service crashed a few times. And finally, the invocation completed successfully. In the UI, we also see the different steps that took place. It sent a notification and slept, then send a reminder, and finally the result got back saying, "You said hi to Alice." So we see that our execution finished successfully, even though there were some failures halfway through. And that's Restate. With just a few lines of code, you get automatic retries, progress tracking, and resilient execution. No complex error handling required. As a next step, I recommend checking out the durable execution docs to learn more about what you can build. Thanks for watching and happy building.